Gaming. It can either make or break a relationship for some reason. I feel like whenever I watch a video or read a post on the topic of gaming and relationships, I get either one of two scenarios. Scenario 1 usually consists of a girlfriend complaining that her boyfriend plays too many games, and consequently feels neglected in the relationship, usually resulting in some sort of ultimatum presented to the guy like, "It's me or the PS5. And most of the time, the boyfriend says he chooses the girlfriend because being a sad single loser is cringe, but still like secretly plays video games on the side because neither of them know what healthy compromises are. It's me, boy, on the PS5s! And the resentment grows, leading to an ever-increasingly bitter marriage. I feel like this is a classic narrative that a lot of old-fashioned heteros like to cling to. Alternatively, you have scenario 2. Both parties actually game and they can enjoy co-op games together. Whether it's Overcooked, Overwatch, which has been replaced by Marvel Rivals nowadays, or sharing a Minecraft world in which you guys go to the mines and craft stuff together, or whatever, I don't know, I've never played Minecraft. Or if the two parties play different genres of games, they usually have a sweet gamer cohabitating setup where they can play their separate games but still be in the same room together. This being a newer concept called parallel play that social media recently reinvented. Scenario 1 breaks a relationship, Scenario 2 makes a great relationship. And I bet if you were a young gamer who had poor social skills growing up like me, you probably dreamed of a Scenario 2 situationship. When I was growing up, I loved video games. I grew up on, of course, a lot of Mario and Legend of Zelda games, as any other chronically online 90s kid probably did, as well as the classic RPG Maker games that were popular at the time. Games like Yume Nikki, Eve, Space Funeral, Off, things like that. I think what I really appreciated about video games was that I saw them as a more engaging form of storytelling. I really appreciated the stories you could extract through the characters' dialogue, character designs, and the environments. And I especially love that more exploration typically led to uncovering more story. Seriously, even though none of these games are technically open world, they all felt open world to me as a kid because I felt so amazed exploring these pixelated environments and discovering these little details that fleshed out the in-game universes in my tiny, understimulated 8-year-old brain. However, in the area that I grew up in, there weren't any other kids who were interested in the same games as me, nor really in the same way that I was interested in video games. Yeah, they'd play Mario Party or Mario Kart with me, but I couldn't really talk about games with them. They didn't really care to hear about my comparisons between Peach's Castle shown in Mario Kart 64 versus Super Mario 64. Look, it's so fascinating. There is a pathway shown in the Mario Kart version, but in the Super Mario version there's no pathway and Mario just enters through a pipe, and I just really wonder what the logistics of that. Being said, because video games had such a profound effect on me growing up, it felt rather lonely not to have anyone to discuss or explore these fascinating worlds with. So for the longest time in my youth, I dreamed of that Scenario 2 relationship. I thought, once I found a partner who's into games the same way I'm into games, the same type of person who scours through YouTube deep dives and shipping fan art, that's it. It'll be endgame. It'll be perfect and I'll never feel lonely again. The thing is though, I have discovered a secret third option when it comes to gaming couple scenarios that I feel like no one ever talks about. That third scenario being, you're both fucking toxic gamers. Gaming, for whatever reason, sure can have an effect on people. And I think it's because of people's natural competitiveness and pride. Plus, certain types of games call for a degree of competitiveness in order for you to be good at them. Specifically games where you are fighting against other players. And while this sense of competitiveness can be a great motivator for getting good at whatever game, when you lose, it can also unfortunately look like this. Get this shit off me! You see, my current partner and I are very competitive. And you know what makes competitive people even more competitive? When the person you are competing against is about the same skill level as you. I met my partner, Sir Saltmeat, through, wait for it, the League of Legends community. I know, we were both walking red flags. We did eventually uninstall after meeting, so we grew together, okay? But I felt like this was important context to add to explain why we are the way I'm going to describe us. Sir Saltmeat grew up with drastically different games than me. While I was playing RPG adventures, he was playing first-person shooters. Games like Halo, Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, and the like. And while Halo and Grand Theft Auto have encapsulating stories, You know, most 8-year-old boys are not really paying too much attention to the lore or anything like that. That is not why most of them are playing those games. They're having fun shooting each other, playing Halo 2 split screen with their friends. And they should have had more fun playing Halo 2 because what came to follow was just not as good. But anyway, because of that, when we first entered a relationship, while we were ecstatic to have found someone with a compatible personality and a shared interest, something we had both struggled to find for the first 2 decades of our lives, it was a little hard to find some common ground. We were passionate about the games we grew up with, but neither of us had grown up with each other's special interest games, and we liked those games for different reasons to boot. So we tried out what little common ground we did have in our respective wide repertoire of games, which mostly consisted of fighting games, in which we would fight each other as two competitive people with similar skill levels. As you could guess, things did not go well. We played Soul Calibur 6, Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, why are there so many words in that one? Marvel vs. Capcom, not Street Fighter though, we were both really bad at that, and that was not fun. The interesting thing about gamers that I feel like some people don't understand is that sometimes gamers do not play games to have fun. Sometimes the most stupid and toxic of gamers played games solely to give themselves hernias. We had no interest in co-op games where we worked together to reach a shared goal. Instead, we were interested in impressing each other and establishing our identities as alpha males by squashing the opponent. Except the stupid part is that we chose each other as the opponent, and we both refused to accept the flaws of our respective playstyles. So defeat to us does not mean that our opponent was skilled or that we have areas of improvement to address. It just means that the opponent got fucking lucky. There was a point in time where we waged war against each other almost every day for months, for reasons we don't understand why. I think both of us just get easily addicted to the competition and the high of winning. I think the worst of it is when we'd play Ninja Storm 4 together, especially because I feel like the combat in that game was more fluid and fast-paced, so in my opinion it got the adrenaline pumping more for us, meaning that there would be more rage-induced fits whenever someone lost. There'd always be one week where one of us discovered a counter to the other, leading to this endless cycle of rematches. For example, I had a pretty good win streak playing as the kids from Team Minato because of the reduced hitboxes from their lack of height, and it took an agonizing while for my partner to adjust to this advantage. However, he eventually discovered that I also had no idea how to counter whenever he uses Danzo's Awakening, so then I had a week where I was frothing at the mouth instead. And yeah, sure, pro gamers in the chat are probably going to be like, oh, you both just suck. We don't care. It's not. This is between me and him, okay? While neither of us were particularly sore winners, we were both definitely such sore losers that if either of us had so little as a smirk on our face after winning, it would drive the other insane. I know, we were both really childish, okay? But because our relationship was pretty smooth outside of gaming, I guess we didn't notice how insane this endless cycle of alternating losing streaks was. And we stayed in this perpetual hell where we constantly felt like shit after each gaming session for months. And again, from an outside perspective, it probably sounds stupid and silly, because it was. But as I said before, gamers are stubborn and sometimes view games as a way to demonstrate mastery over real-world skills, even though that's completely not true. There is no real-world skill equivalent. Gaming is a hobby of little real return unless you're a pro or a gamer, honestly. Not saying that your hobbies have to have like monetary returns. What I am saying though is that we shouldn't have been losing sleep as we did over it. Yet we couldn't step away because it always felt like there was some sort of score to settle. Some residual feelings from a match that occurred days ago that felt unresolved even though the matches themselves were resolved. Tension was building each day despite us playing the same exact games and having generally identical outcomes each time. Well, eventually there was one session that was essentially the straw that broke the camel's back. I honestly can't remember what made it so intense, whether it was we both kept on depleting each other's health and let the matches go on for extended periods of time, or if the tension had just been naturally accumulating over time. Either way, it just got so heated that we both just had to step out of the room and not look at each other for at least 10 minutes. And I think once it got to that point, we finally realized that maybe playing these games were having a more negative effect on our relationship relationship than we would have liked to admit. And as fun as we thought it was at the time, it was probably healthier if we didn't compete against each other anymore. So from that point on, we took a break from gaming and focused on other activities we could do together. I think we really got into hiking after that, which honestly is way better for us in the long run anyway, physically and mentally. Like, probably pretty good for building up stamina and cardio, and also mentally because we actually got to go out and touch grass and finally reflect upon those days with a fresher perspective. And then eventually learn to laugh about it because what we put ourselves through was honestly so unnecessary. Even though it was a stressful time, I am grateful that we had that experience because I learned some valuable lessons from it. That we shouldn't invest so much energy into things that are not reflective of our real world abilities or accomplishments. That we shouldn't push for something to continue just because we had preconceived notions that it would be an improvement from our current situation. And that you don't have to have a gamer spouse if you are a dedicated gamer, because honestly, they could turn out to be pretty annoying about it. The good news though is that Sir Saltmeat and I have a much healthier relationship with gaming together nowadays compared to before. We eventually learned to play each other's genres, discovered how fun it is to take turns being each other's mentor, and found far more casual competitive games to play together, ones that we didn't have to take so seriously. On top of that, we got into FromSoft games, which have a reputation of being challenging, thus appealing to our competitive nature in a way that didn't destroy each other. And we enjoyed discussing which Soulsborne YouTubers had sold us on which outlandish theories. So I guess in a way, after some maturity, we grew into that dynamic we had always pictured. The only other road bump we seem to have come across is that he doesn't appreciate one of my favorite games of all time, which kind of drives me crazy, but I'm sure if I just find a way to better explain it an 8th time, I'm sure he's gonna come around to see why the game is so special. Anyway folks, that's all I wanted to share with you today. I've been doing a lot of reflection since it's a new year and all, and also because we did just recently get engaged. So I've just been thinking about all the growth in our relationship over the past 10 years. Even if you don't game though, I think this can still be applied to managing any sort of expectation when it comes to relationships, romantic or otherwise. You might meet someone, think you like them for one trait, but then discover that they're not exactly how you pictured, and you have to decide if the initial draw towards that person is truly all that important to you, or if the other overall positive qualities of the person make you happy enough to stay anyway. Because no one's ever going to be the ideal of anything really. Gotta remember that people are complex. But what's most important is if that person loves you and puts in an equal amount of effort into the relationship. And I know that this is a very obvious message, but sometimes when you are lonely and don't have people in your immediate vicinity that you can relate to, you can get a little blindsided when you do finally meet someone you relate to. I know from personal experience that I get a little too excited when I meet people who can finally engage in a topic I've been wanting to discuss with others, and it can often place some unfair expectations on the other person, typically in my case in the form of unwarranted rants. In any case, if you have had a similar gaming experience with a significant other or even a close friend, I'd love to hear it because I am tired of hearing about scenarios 1 and 2. Let me hear from some fellow toxic gaming couples who worked it out. Let me hear from the ones who got too competitive and then stopped talking to each other for a week. Let me hear from the friends who thought it'd be a great idea to game together, but then quickly realized that they have drastically different playstyles, and it took a while for you guys to get used to the way the other person plays. Comment below, drop a like if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Hey honey?
Yeah?
Look what I found!
No! No!